Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Neville Goddard podcast. My name is Mr. 2020, and today we're going to talk about the difference between the magic moment, that magical moment, and the middle muddle. Because the middle muddle is where your mind wants to go. Your mind wants to go to the middle muddle. And to manifest, you got to go to the magic moment. Have a lovely day. Let's dive in and join us at manifestingmasterycourse.com. All right, so she could have got caught up in the money. That's just one of the middles. You don't want to get caught in the middles. Today's podcast brought to you by manifestingmasterycourse.com. Notice if you get caught up in the middles. Do you go to the money? Do you go to the time? Or do you go to the end? Do you go to the who? Do you go to the what? Or do you go to the end? So Madeline, this is so good. So Madeline sends me a request asking about some older podcasts on one-click manifesting. And I find one, but I know there's more than one, but I also know it's time to do an update. Because there's the time when it just clicks. And that's what we're playing with, flirting with, shooting for, surrendering to. The time when it just clicks. And literally, for the cottage here, I'm in the old mud brick cottage. I'm going to give you the quick history lesson. Back in the 60s, two hippies squatted on a piece of public land. And they built a house out of mud. They made one room out of mud bricks. And they discovered that one room isn't big enough for two people, so they extended onto it. They made two rooms, and they stayed in it for like 7 or 9 years or something like that. They petitioned the local government for the deed to the property because they'd been squatting on it for 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it was. And they got deed to the entire property, the entire valley, like $4 million worth of property, right? And they did it because they decided to stake their claim. They made a little house out of mud, expanded on it, and so on and so forth. And that's where I'm at right now. Now, I want you to get the power of imagination, because it's not the power of the mind thinking things through. The mind thinking things through are like tools on a tool belt. All right? I want you to get that you're the carpenter. Literally, think about it. Jesus was a carpenter. Jesus wasn't a hammer. Meanwhile, let's keep diving. One click. So when it came to the cottage, by the time I got here, so the cottage was built in the 60s. I got here around 2010, 2011. So 50 years later, the old mud brick cottage is beginning to fall apart. It's looking pretty derelict. And Victoria and I, we share a dream to restore it. To get it better than it ever was. And so we imagine that. We imagine the cottage in all of its glory. And here's what happens. Victoria imagines one thing primarily. One thing. And that's the click of the cottage door. Because the old doors that were on here were just sort of like old barn doors. You know, just sort of doors put together from scrap kind of wood. They were cool. It was old-fashioned. They kept people out. But they were on, like, cords and stuff. So you sort of pulled the door shut by pulling on the cord. And so Victoria imagined the click of the cottage door, which would imply that there's a different door, that there's a different mounting. She just imagined the click of the cottage door, which would imply that we had somebody do it. See, you don't start with the doors. The doors are the last thing. They call it lock-up here in Australia. Whenever you have a building and it's finally complete, you lock it up. You know, like the windows all work, the doors work, the roof's on, the walls are intact. The last thing you do are the doors. Well, technically. The thing that indicates that it's all done is lock up. You don't really put the doors on last, but that's the key. When you lock it up, it's locked up. It's not open to the elements. It's not missing walls. It's locked up. There's a click of the cottage door. So Victoria imagines the click of the cottage door, the coming, the going, doing whatever she's doing. She imagines the click of the cottage door, the click of the cottage door. And it only takes a second, because before, when she'd come out and get tools out of the cottage was all cluttered, it was falling apart. She'd push open the door and it would make like a rickety sound. She'd pull it closed with the piece of cloth or the rope and it would like scoot shut, but there was never really a click of the cottage door. That was that tiny little anchor point, the thing that she could experience every single time she came to the cottage after the cottage is complete. And now, all these years later, and this was also done years ago, we found the right guy, we had the right money, we got the right supplies. Like everything that we needed miraculously happened in perfect divine timing. And the cottage is cool. It's not only restored to its former glory, but it is glorified. And that's where I do the podcast every single day from. I come out here, I do my thing, I do my stretching, I do my soaring. And it's all because of what I experience every day as well, the click of the cottage door. If you got gold today, let's take it one step further. So when I know that Victoria's imagining the click of the cottage door, I experience what I experience, knowing how much she loves the click of the cottage door. See, it's not that there's more power when there's more people imagining. At the center of it all, there's only one I am imagining everything. But we'll leave that for another day. Because what I want you to do is, I want you to get this. Your imaginal act is something that you simply surrender to. That implies your wish is fulfilled. She didn't have to imagine what the cottage looked like, what it sounds like. She didn't have to imagine the money to make it happen. She didn't have to imagine the man to make it happen. It's amazing how it all happened. I mean, there's stories there that I could tell. But I can tell you this. The end is your friend. Go to the end. If you got gold today, manifestingmasterycourse.com. That's the course. When you begin, a lot of people think they know about manifesting, and they do. They know about it. But we want you to know the truth about you that sets you free, and that's what happens in 90 days. Right? It's I can tell you about it. I have told you about it. Go to manifestingmasterycourse.com and just read, all those old testimonials. I haven't really updated that in a while. We send out some new ones in the emails and post them on the Facebook group. But just read how people's lives change once they commit. Once they experience the click of knowing, yep, I drive the bus. Join us at manifestingmasterycourse.com. Have a great day, kids. Madeline, thank you for your request. And remember, a scene is how you experience what you experience. And how do you experience the cottage? The click of the cottage door. What does that imply? Heaps. Because the wish was the cottage. The click is the cottage door. See ya.